Hello, my name is Brent Frayne. I'm the host for Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies, also known as PWD Podcast on YouTube. So today I have Michael Chapman joining me back on the show, and Michael is going to be talking about housing. Michael is he's the Investigative Research Council, and I'd love to always hear what Michael has to say, especially regarding the topic of today of housing. I mean, housing is so unaffordable for people across Canada, especially in British Columbia, where we pay the highest taxes in Canada. You name it, housing is. We made the top, Michael. We made the top spot across North America for the most expensive housing. Imagine that.
Yippee!
Wow.
Yes, that's good if you've got all your investments in the real estate market, but most of the people I know on disability or any other kind of government benefit haven't got extra money. The only people who've got money for property who are on a government benefit are the members of the provincial parliaments. So let's start off with the numbers. You know, this month I'm surviving. My rent is $500 a month, and this month every MLA except for the 4 or 5 in Victoria that live there properly are getting almost $2,500 from the same pot that I get my 500 from. They know the real cost of housing, and by not having realistic housing available and by giving these ridiculous amounts of money, they're causing people to live in abject poverty and forcing people moving off and going and doing MAID and euthanizing themselves because it's just got so bad. But I think we have to really, really stand up and be counted and come together as a group. And I think there's a lot of different ways we can do that. I think this is a good way of talking about it. And I'm looking forward to figuring out some different methods of challenging the government, because right now there's no challenge to them. There's no pressure on them whatsoever. You see the way they treat us throughout the pandemic, the last to receive any benefit. They were saying, oh, we're going to give a rental benefit for the $400 for the year. But, it turned out, well, they give homeowners almost $1,000 a year every year. And that was going to be a one-time thing. I don't know, it dribbled out, but it's just frustrating to try to see some sunshine when there's so many clouds, dark, ominous clouds over it. But there's solutions.
When you said abject poverty, I kind of misheard. My ear misheard a little bit. I thought you said magic poverty.
Yeah,
magic. And in a way, it is magic, right? Like I always talk about the pink unicorns, and rent and housing prices is one of those pink unicorns, right?
Yeah, I mean, and let's talk more numbers. Roughly about $1,400 a month for a person on a disability in British Columbia. A politician in British Columbia gets about $13,000 a month for their housing benefits, their salary, their $61 food allowance per diem when they're in Victoria. $61 a day for food?
Yeah.
Wow. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
I'm obese.
A person with disabilities in British Columbia get $1,483.50 with the $125 increase, what it used to be $1,358.50. Now, and here's the magic bullet here is only some got the $125 increase. Not all got that $125.
Yeah, no, that was so misleading the way Colton's David Eby, and that's what I call him because that's who he's getting his power from, because he wasn't elected. David Eby was not elected the premier of this province.
Yeah,
he's a a door holder until there's a general election. But you know, that whole thing, $1,400 a month. It's like, come on.
Yeah. You know, and then if you opt out of a bus pass, you get another 52. So now, you know, now it pushes your income up. Now you can't get around. You can't go to food banks. You can't, I mean, not that you need to go to food banks, so they need to raise the rates. But I mean, you can't go grocery shopping. You can't go to medical appointments just because they won't raise the rates to an adequate amount. And you're right, Michael. I mean, politicians get the same rental supplement for $2,500 versus maybe $500 if your rent went up. If your rent didn't go up, you still get $375.
$375, and that's all the people who are in BC housing. Any BC housing, you're staying at the $375 contribution, which doesn't make any sense because that money, you know, it's one arm of the government paying the other arm of the government, and by keeping people at $375, it gives them less options. Say they're in a terrible housing, they want to leave somewhere. Well, their budget's $375.
Yeah,
and it was really misleading the way they did it. They announced in July, there's going to be a increase of 100 and whatever dollars to the housing, to the shelter allowance. But then come July, they said, oh no, it's for August, but we're issuing it at the end of July.
Right.
So there was a month of lying. Like for them to lie for a month, you know how many people made a commitment to that? Oh, I've got that much extra money, not extra, I've got a bit more coming in. And all of a sudden it wasn't there at the end of July.
Yeah.
It's just so inconsiderate, so disrespectful. And it blows my mind that they're getting away with this.
Well, especially that when the budget came out, is February 28th there, and people had to wait till July check to July 19th of this year, 2023. They had to wait all those months to get that small 125 if they could get it. And when they did get it, because of the cost of living, poof, you don't even feel that difference, right? No,
it's, I mean, it went to big oil for my gas, increase in gas. It went to increase in my food. It went to, I didn't see any of that money.
Oh, food is getting crazy.
Well, and now they're saying, we're going to tax the grocery stores if they don't smarten up. Well, if they tax the grocery stores, who pays that? I mean, who pays for it all? We pay for everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
None of these people, none of the billionaires are hurting. So what it comes down to is we can't support any more billionaires. I'm sorry. We did our best. We're really sorry. We're going to have to cut their benefits off, and we're going to have to go back to supporting the people, because I am tired of supporting billionaires, and that's all that's happening.
Yeah.
The tax break has not gone to the most needy, the most desperate. It's gone to those people at the top who don't actually have any need for it.
Yeah.
So,
Michael, what is your view about vacancy control in BC?
Well, I don't quite, when you say vacancy control, do you mean rent control that's attached to a unit as opposed to attached to the people?
Yeah, vacant.
That's the way it has to be. So if you're paying $600 a month for your apartment, and you move, the next guy that moves in pays $600 a month.
Yeah, that's vacancy control.
You call that vacancy control? Okay, well, I've heard it called rent control. Whatever. What I would say is it's common sense.
Yeah.
And everything else is a charade.
Yeah.
I've just got kicked out of a place for owner's use. Well, guess what? In over 2 weeks now, I drive by that house every day on my way to my community garden plot, and there's no one in it.
Yeah. I'll give you an example, though.
They just didn't want people in their cottage or whatever it was.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. I rent from a corporate landlord in Victoria, and I had a discussion with one of my upper management, and basically I said, well, so if I were to move out, I said, you guys would be jumping up and down with joy, right? You'd be like having a crack in the champagne or whatever you got to do. And they're like, well, yeah, it's we need to make sure our investors are well taken care of.
Yeah,
so I said, so
investors
you can
invest in the stock market.
Yeah, it's like way up there. And they said, sky's the limit.
Yeah,
whatever the market
the government, our government, and this is every brand, NDP, conservative, liberal, whatever, every single capitalist government has sold out the security and the trust of the people, because it's pretty important. We guarantee the security of the person, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And judges the rules in British Columbia, the security of the person includes the right to have a place to sleep at night. So I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm not happy that judges wouldn't go the next step and say that means a house and a dry place where you can call your own. They said a bloody tent. Well, I haven't seen any judges in tents. But the fact of the matter is, they've recognized the security of the person includes a place to sleep. So the next step is, well, let's put the word home in the charter. Certainly, all these politicians are coming up for election will agree that we have a right to a home. And the fact that they've allowed the commodification of our housing, like it's like you're saying, investor. I don't want to hear the word investor. Yeah. You know what? I was taught when you go to the buffet, you don't get seconds until everyone's had their first plate.
Yeah.
So you don't get 5 houses. I'm sorry. And you don't get all these tax breaks. Like there's all these landlords, the mom and pop landlords, they call themselves, but they own 5 bloody houses. We're talking millions of dollars in assets. Yeah. And they're making money because they're charging out exorbitant rents that people have to pay because people have to live. But it's a failure on our government. The Fed got out of it in the 70s. The province has fallen behind and turned into a Ponzi scheme of, they've created the poverty industrial complex, I call it. And it's all nonprofits. Like, how can you call yourself a nonprofit when your CEO is making $250K a year? Like, I'm sorry. And your poor frontline workers. I'm thinking of all those people that work in these housing. Sorry, I got 1 second here. I got to mute just for 1 second. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
you know getting to what Michael was saying, just for the listeners that are listening to the podcast, when it's their time to listen to it in audio. But anyone watching right now, and I'll kind of recap this when Michael gets back, but it's so frustrating when older places, Neil, that are already paid off, like their mortgages are paid off like 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. And when the housing was so cheap, right? That, I mean, I'm not saying that the ma and pa type of atmosphere of the type of building is. I mean, they didn't work hard. Of course, they worked hard. They worked very hard to have their asset, what they wanted many decades ago. But with them charging outrageous prices, I mean, in this building, it was over $2,000 for a 2-bedroom, unrenovated. And then they say, oh, well, it's what the, of course, as what the investors want their return. Now you're looking at new places, and I'll talk to Michael.
I'm back.
Yeah, hi, Michael. So I was just telling Neil and any of our listeners watching today, and once they're listening on the podcast later on, that like the place that I rent right now is, I mean, it was built in the 1960s, right? So the mortgage is paid off. Like the company, they just buy it. They don't have no mortgage, right?
Well, so they bought it, it's paid off, and now they use that building's equity to buy 7 other buildings.
Yeah,
that's true.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
it's like a festering cancerous tumor. Saying no, everyone gets a meal before you get seconds.
Yeah,
and I don't want to hear investment in residential real estate.
My dad's family. My dad had 4 other brothers, and when he was young with 4 other brothers, his mom and dad had a saying at the dinner table. It was FHB, and FHB stands for family hold back. So if there was like 1 or 2 pieces of bread left on the table, it was FHB, hold back until everybody's had their slice of bread, right? Yeah,
absolutely. I'll give you another example. And where we moved from, Sonia and myself, we moved from Langley out to Victoria just over 2 years ago now. How time flies. Now, we were curious. We keep looking at the rental ads out there because that's where we call home. Maybe eventually, I don't know. I mean, we're hoping, but who knows what the future will hold.
When we get monetized, Brent.
Yeah. So where we were renting from, we were paying at a brand new place. It was brand new. It was built. We saw it getting built, $1,775. That same unit, it's been flipped over 5 times. 5 times. I've seen their ad. It's now going for $2,575. Nothing's changed. Brand new place. So that goes to show it's all about greed. It's just greed, right?
Greed is the symptom, but the issue here is the abject abandonment by the government and protecting one of the most sacred resources to anyone. That's your home. It really is that fundamental. And we're going on the pwdarmy.com website.
Yeah.
This Sunday coming up, I believe at 3:00. There's a Zoom call where we're talking about we're starting a human rights case, and then because human rights is one avenue of legislation that's got a bit more push, and I think it's pushed because it's shameful for the government when they're called out under the Human Rights Act for disrespecting people's rights. But that whole process is, the complaint is people on disability receive a shelter allowance of $500 versus MLAs who receive $2,500, and the only discriminatory factor is disability. And it's very unique. And of course, every agency that the government set up to help people making a human rights complaint that we've talked to, oh no, that sounds too complicated. It's like, yeah, exactly. Because there's no help. It's nothing about, no one's going to come to your house and help you or do anything now. It really is a matter of us standing up for what's right and moving forward. So I'm making a little plug here for this upcoming Zoom call. I'm asking people to go to pwdarmy.com, join up, and go into the group that's called BC Human Rights. And you'll see all the information there. And I think there's about 24 members. So it'd be really nice to have lots of people on that Zoom call coming Sunday at 3 p.m. And I don't want to share the, well, I guess you can share the Zoom link anywhere because I control who comes into the thing, so it can't get.
That's true.
Is that 3:00 Pacific Standard Time?
If you want, I can put it. It's up to you. I can put the Zoom link in your video description if you want me to. But if you don't want me to, I won't do it. So just let me know.
After we go off, I can send it to you? Okay. Then let's do that. So folks, take a look down below at the description. There'll be a link there for the
not right now, but when it's posted later, it'll be posted there.
And that's Pacific Standard Time, right? 3:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
So the concern I have about rent vacancy control or rent control is that we've gotten to the point now it's not affordable for anyone. So what's the immediate plan to rectify the situation? Because it's torture. It's bloody torture trying to live on the disability amount that are given. It's unfathomable. And it's so frustrating for people that are getting a CPP clawback.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I'm getting the clawback.
I'm getting the clawback. It's like $800 a month.
Wow.
And it pushes you underwater.
It does.
That clawback would let me just tread. I'd get the odd bit of water in my mouth, but I'd be treading.
Yeah, but then you could spit that water.
My back is holding my head underwater.
Yeah, me too.
Poverty is state violence because the only reason for poverty is bad legislation. Look around you. There's $88 billion for those warplanes. There's $35 billion for the pipeline no one wants. The money's there. And if it's not there, they can turn the printer on. But if they're not taking care of us,
I wanted to go back because you're saying you wanted to launch a human rights thing, and I, hats off to you. I wish you well. But I mean, that I've submitted about 3 or 4 myself.
Yeah, regarding the clawback, right?
About the clawback.
Yeah, but see, they weaseled their way around that. There's no. This one's caught them with their pants down because they can't do a lot of it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good because what I was going to say is with the clawback that they can just say, well, it's not discriminatory and it's because we said so, and it's like, and then it's like the BC Human Rights Commissioner kind of just agrees with everything, and it's like, oh yeah, it's fine. Clawing back a protected income, like a pension is a protected income. Clawing back a protected income is fine. And
I know, and that's why
I'm like, bullshit. It's not fine.
That's the problem with the bureaucracy has gotten to the point now it's so self-serving that they just keep moving the goalposts.
Yeah. So
that's why I've just taken the game. I think we're taking the game to a different field, and we're saying, okay, new game, new rules. Let's talk about shelter allowance.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We're giving the MLA a shelter allowance.
What,
So many
Michael,
of them
what is,
actually bought houses and they're
what is,
Airbnb and being them out. That's what I love.
Yeah.
Michael, what is your view on rent geared to income, RGI, rent geared to income?
Well, it's the only way to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And it makes complete sense. But it's funny, there's a building in Vancouver that a friend of mine sent me a link to, and I applied for it, called North Fraser Arms. A brand new building, 55 plus. And then I looked and read the stuff, and oh yeah, they want moderate income. Well, what the
Right.
hell is moderate income in a city where the cost of a one bedroom is $3,000? And the building's empty and it's brand new, and the reason it's empty is because there's no moderate income people in Vancouver. You're either
Exactly.
a millionaire or you're abjectly poor. There is no middle. This whole
Well-
every time I hear middle class, like middle what? It never was a middle class. There's 90% of the population and there's 1%.
Even on the last podcast, Brent, you mentioned about subsidies for single mothers and single fathers, right?
Right. Yeah, that's
And
right.
I mean, and of course, I was a single dad for at least 5 years when my first wife, she passed. So I was single and like really struggling financially. Well, I was getting the claw back. So, and you were saying that they had the subsidy for single dads.
Yeah, they do.
If you're
Yeah.
renting, but
Yeah.
of course, like in
But
my
if you're not-
case, I have a mortgage. Like I'm just
Yeah.
lucky to have a mortgage. But it's like, too bad, your wife passed away. Too bad, we're gonna claw back your subsistence pension. So no subsidy for you. You're
Yeah.
out of luck.
See, the
And
problem-
it's like, yeah, that's
the
fair.
problem-
Thanks.
Yeah, the problem with that though is there's a gap in the system. There's a deliberate gap. So it's saying if you're not a senior, you're not on SAFERS, you're not on RAP, which is RAP. I always say RAP. Then there needs to have one for PWD, right? So, but it's ones that people that are in between that they don't qualify for either one of those systems. Well, they're saying, well, then you're SOL, right?
Yeah.
And here's another example too, is there's landlords out there that they don't want you using, they'll be discriminatory against PWD too, because they're going to say, oh, well, we don't want you using your support portion to pay the high market rent. What are you going to do? And you say, well, I need a place to rent. Okay, well, then the government needs to raise your shelter up. I go, well, I've been advocating getting to do it. They're like, okay, well, we'll consider you. We'll get back to you. Then we're saying, okay, move on.
Yeah, the situation is so dire. There's only one way to fix it, and that's to build a whole bunch of housing. And so, if they can find the 35 billion for a pipeline that we don't need, another pipeline up in the natural gas that we don't need, and a dam we don't need, and a bunch of warplanes we don't need, they can find the bloody money for building housing and build it until there's no more demand. That's when you know you've built enough. We've got to study it. We've got to do a review. Well, we're doing a housing review. Stuff your housing reviews up because there's no need for a review. I can tell you right now.
Yeah, just build the houses.
Well, there's
You
no
don't
more
want to
demand.
study. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you
Because
build too much housing, then the 500,000 new immigrants should let in to have a place to live instead of living on the streets in Toronto. Then
Yeah.
the single moms with their kids don't have to live in a shelter where they have to leave during the day.
yeah.
Give me a break. It's so inhumane.
I mean, you get
Shelters are jails without a key. That's the only difference.
you get
Yeah.
some
I've
of
only
these
been in jail once, and that was for a day when I was
Yeah.
19. And I can
Yeah,
tell you, being in a shelter, they're the exact same thing. The only difference is the shelter doesn't have a key.
Mhm. Like you get some of these houses at places that are built way back in like 1980, like late 1980s, early 90s, and they were asking like $1,510, $1,535 at the time. Now the price is going up. But here's the catch. Oh, we'll rent to you as long as your income is no less than 40 to 50%. We'll go down to 40. I go, what? They're like, yeah, you'd be needing to make about $4,500. So between the two of you, we could probably do it at 4,000, but you need to get the government to raise your income up to $2,000 minimum, and then we can rent to you.
Yeah, I
go,
know there's a huge amount of discrimination against disabled people and their renting, especially because landlords go, they're going to be home all the time.
Yeah.
But whatever, and so they want somebody who's not there during the day, not using, there's no wear and tear. And it's like, well, whatever. People need housing.
Well, we've talked about this.
Housing.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before too. Is like I would really want to know what percentage of people with disabilities in BC are actually on subsidized housing or get subsidized housing, because I bet you it's not that much.
Tiny percentage.
It's probably between 5 and 7%. Like I'm just spitballing, but I bet you it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 7% are actually getting subsidized rents.
Well, I mean,
The rest are paying market value.
Yeah.
and if
Yeah.
you look at, well, and they can't be paying market value anymore because it's gotten so high that what they're doing is they're doing what I am doing, I think. And that's renting, sharing a house with.
Yeah, well, you have to share
Yeah.
for sure.
I've got roomies. I had roomies when I was in university.
Yeah.
And now it's almost 60. I've got roomies again.
Yeah.
And so that adds a whole new dimension, especially if you're living with any kind of a disability.
I remember in a town hall meeting, I went to a task force years ago, and it's funny, they're talking about vacancy control, rent control, and that was one of the top items. And you had these little sticky pads, and you put it on the chalkboard, and then they would look through it all and say, what are tenants wanting, right? And we all got to participate in it, and ideas. That was overwhelming. Then, of course, Landlord BC was in the same room, and they all said, no, we don't want that.
Yeah, now Landlord BC is saying, oh, this rent increase of 3.5 is, we don't want that either.
I know.
Landlord BC, I don't have any time for it. It's a bunch of greedy assholes. It really is. You have to beep that. Beep.
Yeah. I always say the jar,
The jar, the swear jar.
Yeah. That's okay.
That's one way we get monetized, Brent, is by the swear jar.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to wrap it up then if we want to make some money. George Carlin, 7 words.
I always just say let it rip, right? Just
let it rip. I think that there's so many good ideas out there. There's lots of opportunity to make this happen. Oh, another good thing, vacancy control. There's a self-starter pack available. It's called the postcard. And it's every time you move, send a postcard to your last address telling them what the rent was.
Oh, right.
Oh, yes.
We did this when I was in university.
That's a great idea. Actually.
Write a letter to the new tenant. Postcard. When I lived in the house, my rent was, here's my email, give me a call. So contact me, whatever. And that way you get it up. And it's pretty hard if you go to landlord and say, well, the guy that was here before me was paying 600. You want me to pay 9? Have you done improvements?
Here's
one for you. These jerks are just doing it because no one's calling them on it.
Yeah, well, here's one for you, Michael. I had there was 2 young guys that were living across the hall from us just after we moved in. I mean, they love to party. They love to make noise. And then, you know what? We really didn't hear much noise here. Their other neighbors heard them, and they just got to a point where they didn't want to pay their rent. They just wanted to party and whatever, right? I mean, they cooked themselves. But
you like to party though too, Brent. I know.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Party. Yeah. But, here the situation is management was happy. Management was happy that they were going to be moving, right? The young guy, he respected who we are, right? And he says, so yeah, you guys are just moved in. I said, yeah. So who lived in here before? Oh, some lady. And I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, she was kind of loopy. Management wanted to get her out. So I said, okay, because I keep getting mail from a guy and a lady. I know. And there was like 2 other people who lived in there 2 months before she moved in. So they had 2 people move in here, separate dwellings, before we moved in. And so he asked me, what is your rent? I said, well, it's at $1,365 when we moved in. What? He goes, what? Mine's only $1,250. I go, really? $1,250. He goes, yeah. When I moved in, there was nothing done in here, no renovations.
There you go. So that's exactly why, send a postcard to your former address.
Yeah. And then when he moved, they evicted him. They got him for not paying his rent.
Yeah. And the other thing,
and I said to him, I said, yeah, like I feel bad for you, but you did it to yourself. You'll learn. Is that you get older, you'll learn that you got to pay your rent. I said, okay. Like I said, I'm not favoring the landlord, but you
it's a pretty basic transaction.
Yeah.
the rent. The problem is now the landlords is like rents become crack and they need more.
Yeah. And then when I bumped into him like one day, and he says, who moved into my unit? I said, oh, there's some East Indians. They're really nice people. He goes, oh, awesome, awesome. Okay. What is their rent? I said, oh, their rent is $1,650. He goes, and nothing was done to the unit. Nothing was done.
And how much time has elapsed in that time where we went up to
It was only
$450?
that was only 1 month. They not even 1 month.
They moved in
that's
4 days. All this pressure to get rid of people, right?
Yeah.
4 days later, they moved in, and it's like poof.
The other thing I wanted to point out that I think is important for people to know is if they have any complaints through the Residential Tenancy Act, there's a filing fee of $100.
Okay.
If people don't understand, if you're poor, which is anyone on a disability or social assistance, you qualify, they'll waive the fee. You just have to fill out a form.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to be discouraged from going that route because of $100. Plus, if your case is worthy, you'll get the $100 back when you win.
Yeah.
Right.
They really have changed the act in the favor of people. So if you're kicked out for a bad reason, you'll get a year's worth of rent.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Exactly because of this pressure. There's so much pressure on people.
Yeah, and there's some cases where there's landlords who will actually situate a new tenant in a bad situation deliberately, so they can hope that that tenant will move out, so they can jack up the rent too. I know we've been through that a couple times now, where it's not a good situation.
There's way too many financial incentives for sleaze bag landlords to pull this shit. And the fact that, they're saying the science says 10% average increase in BC for rent, yet the government, who's the regulator, is saying we're allowing 3.5. The disconnect between the legislative and the practical side of our lives is so far gone that I really don't see these guys fixing. I don't see it being fixed. I see, it's going to be people moving into situations where we're all sharing houses. We're making our own densification because no one can pay these crazy rents. And until the time comes that we actually have government that is no longer caught by corporations, which I don't think we'll see in our lifetime, because every government I've seen in the last 20 years has been taken over by corporations, literally. Yes. I mean, the three political parties in our federal politics are actually corporations that then put forward candidates. You look at their licensed legal corporation. Our democracy has become a sham, and I think that's why it's important to challenge them. And it's like throwing things at the wall until something sticks, because they just keep changing the rules. They keep changing the goalposts, but eventually we're going to get something. And I think that's why, back to the human rights challenge. It might not change the legislation. It might not change the amount of benefit, but the fact that people will see how the discrepancy is between what we pay our elected members to live in Victoria and what we pay disabled people.
A one bedroom is going in Victoria is going for over $2,000 a month now.
Well, it's $3,000 in Vancouver. It's $2,500 everywhere else, and it's not going to go down. And we have a broken housing system.
Well, you mentioned legislation, and I just wanted to go back to that because that's an important point. When I write emails and when I write tweets or whatever, and I've written a few opinion pieces too. I talk a lot about the legislation, and the problem with it, like you said, it's broken because none of the legislation now seems to be rooted in truth or reality. It's just like I said, I say all the time, here's a pink unicorn, right? And when you have legislation that allows pink unicorns, that's what it, let's take the clawback as an example again. Like I said, the clawback is nonsense. It's gobbledygook.
Yeah.
But it's the legislation is allowing untruth and fantasy basically, and saying, "Oh, it's fine." And our BC Human Rights Commissioner is saying, "Yeah, pink unicorns are fine." And that's the problem. Yeah. That's the problem.
Anyone who holds a position that is an appointment, I have no. They don't hold any skin in my game because it's appointment and it's too open to corruption. It's not open to transparency. So human rights commissioner, public health officer, like no. Let's start electing these people. They have such an impact. They have such an impact on our lives. Let's elect them. Let's have people stand up in front of the people, in front of us, and say, "I'll be your human rights commissioner because I'll do this," instead of elected or appointed underhandedly under a back door. Oh, hi, I'm the human rights commissioner, and I'm doing what I'm being told to do by the government. But people keep forgetting.
Yeah, the government's pulling the strings. The government's pulling the strings. Yeah,
and we're allowing them to do it because people have just, I think people are so distracted by poverty, by substance, by dysfunction in our society that, and medication. I think a lot of people are medicated beyond, necessity. So
it's like a narrative they keep putting out there.
Everyone's just pacified, and it's like we're just, that pink stuff that they make chicken McNuggets out of.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the federal government, if you've heard just recently, now they're saying, the Trudeau government is now saying, they're going to eliminate the GST on new construction. That's just
nothing. That's irrelevant. This is the same government. All those federal MPs just voted themselves a raise. It's almost like $15,000 when you consider all the committee patronage and all the ministerial, sub-ministerial levels. About $15,000 a year, which is more. They've given themselves a raise, which is more than a person who's disabled has to live the entire year.
Yeah. It's like these splashy announcements. We're gonna eliminate
this. It's all just splashy announcements. And all three of those leaders of those parties sit in that cafeteria in Ottawa eating prime rib for $5 a plate because we subsidize it. That's what it costs. And they're all buddies, and they're all laughing at the luck of the draw that they've won the lottery, and they're at that trough. And until there's transparency and people see that they're all in together, there's no left or right wing. It's called capitalism. And these are parties supported by corporations who have interest in what's being extracted from our economy. Because it doesn't make any sense to me to invest $35 billion in a pipeline, to take oil to China, yet at the same time, all we hear is China this, interference, China this, interference. Well, if it's really that bad with China, then maybe we shouldn't be supplying them with the oil for their war machine. Anyone thought of that? So,
or you know what, Michael, is that me and Brent have talked about that if we ever got the business of PWD allies as a business, we could have business lunches. And then you could come to a business lunch with us.
Yeah, you could come.
And we could just write it off.
Yeah.
Write it off against our income because this amount of money I get from my disability. Well, I just want my pension. Like I just want.
Yeah, me too.
I'll scrape by at the poverty line. Let me try though.
Yeah.
Stop kneecapping me. Like let me try. Stop holding my head underwater.
Yeah.
And
like you said, even if they gave me my pension back, I would just be, just above. Like I would still be treading water, like barely, right?
Yeah, in 93, 94, there used to be pensions. PWD used to have disability pensions, and then the hardcore government decided, no, we don't want them to have pensions, right? Just rip it away. Just snap it away.
So you guys, this is can you see this? Maybe not.
Or you're blurred right now. You're
I know.
Yeah,
it's I guess if I fool with my face, that's the way it works. But pwearmy.com.
Yeah.
Get everyone to go over there and join up. Or you can hit me up on Twitter on Investigative Research Council. And I really like
Jeff Leggett is part of the PWD Army, right?
I believe so. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of. I think
that's
it's
the same.
New. But it's they put together a fairly good website. It takes a bit of time to figure it out, but it's pretty intuitive. Okay. But I've got to get going pretty soon today.
Okay.
But I just wanted to thank you guys for talking about this because it's really important that we keep this conversation going. Like,
Oh, it is extremely important, Michael, and I want people to know that the People's House in Victoria is a place for gathering, for rallies. I mean,
well,
do
we have to plan something. So
out there? People can squat and go to the outhouses, and
let's work on. I'm serious about having a rally there, and
Yes.
I think it'd be better to do it sooner than later because the weather is going to be turning. But
Yeah.
I think it'd be just to show how many people actually are upset about, and do it in such a way that people who can't make it to Victoria can do it in their community, at their municipal government hall, or at their library, somewhere that's a public space. And
do it, synchronize it. Like I know that
so many of us are isolated because of our disabilities, and I think the government relies on that, and they're screwed because we have the internet now, and here we are. This would have never happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Michael wouldn't be talking about revolutionary ideas.
Yeah.
I know that Jeff Leggett, Michael, is going to be having a rally. He's doing his Western Canada End Legislative Poverty tour currently as we speak. He's in Edmonton right now. He's going to be making his way to the coast on Sunday, September 17th. He's going to be at the gallery in Vancouver, at the art gallery
on the 17th
on Robson Street.
And what time is that? What time is that?
It's from 4 to 7 p.m. I know because I'm actually going to be there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you guys put that up. I gotta go. I really appreciate the time. And anytime you want to chat, hit me up. I'm all up for it, guys.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks, thanks, Michael.
We'll have you back on soon, Mike. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you, Ben. Thank you, Neil, and thank you everyone watching. And come on over to pwdarmy.com and join up the BC Human Rights Challenge.
All right.
That's great. And then the Zoom, Michael, before you go, that Zoom meetup will be on what days? Sunday, right?
I'm back Sunday,
September 18th. Or no, 17th. Sorry. Yeah.
17th.
Yeah, like I said, if you want to, you can forward me the link.
All the stuff you can put it on the.
You can forward me the link, and I'll put it at the bottom of the video if you want me to. Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael.